In the vastness of space where stars shone like distant diamonds, there was a small human colony on the planet Eros. It wasn't a particularly beautiful world, nor was it prosperous. The people there lived in constant fear, their lives ruled by the strange, powerful alien race known as the Drakencar. The Drakencar were not like any aliens the humans had ever imagined. They were massive, dragon-like creatures with scales that shimmered like molten lava, and eyes that burned with the intensity of stars. Every decade, the Drakencar would demand a tribute from the human colonies, a young child. This offering would be sent to the lair of their god, Vorath, a dragon whose hunger for power and destruction was legendary. The humans had no choice but to obey, for to refuse would mean the end of their world. It was the law of the Drakencar, and no one had ever dared challenge it. This year it was the turn of the Johnson family to give up their son. 10-year-old Lyle Johnson had always been curious about the stars. He would lie awake at night staring at the sky, wondering what lay beyond. His mother, Ann Johnson, watched him with a heavy heart. Lyle was everything to her. He was her only child, the only family she had left in a world filled with strangers and fear. But the time had come, and the Drakencar had made it clear that their demand was not negotiable. "We have no choice, Lyle," Anne said softly, her voice thick with emotion. She knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "The colony will not survive without this. You must go." Lyle, though young, understood the weight of her words. He had heard the stories about the sacrifices. He knew what was coming, but he didn't fully understand why. Why did the Drakencar want them? Why did they take a child every decade? "Will I see you again, Mom?" Lyle asked, his voice barely above a whisper. His heart pounded in his chest, a mix of fear and confusion swirling inside him. Anne didn't answer right away. She just hugged him tightly as if trying to hold him forever, to keep him safe. "I don't know, sweetie, but you will be a hero. Remember that." Lyle didn't feel like a hero. He felt like an ordinary boy, just a child who loved to explore the unknown. Yet he also knew that this sacrifice wasn't just about him. It was about the survival of the entire colony. The people of Eros had no choice but to comply with the Drakencar's demands. Their world was too small, too weak to fight back. The journey to the Drakencar's lair was long and filled with dread. Lyle sat quietly in the small transport ship, staring out the window at the vast, dark expanse of space. His thoughts raced. What would happen to him? Would he be eaten by the dragon Vorath, or would something worse await him? He didn't know. The ship was silent except for the hum of the engines. Lyle's thoughts turned to his mother. He had promised her he would be brave, but now, as the reality of what he was about to face settled in, fear gripped him like a cold hand. He wanted to cry, to scream, to run back home to his mother's arms, but he knew he couldn't. The Drakencar were not beings to be disobeyed. Everyone on Eros knew that. As the ship entered the atmosphere of the moon that was home to Vorath, Lyle's heart skipped a beat. The landscape below was barren, rocky, and lifeless. There were no trees, no plants, no signs of life. Only jagged mountains and deep craters that stretched as far as the eye could see. The air was thick with an eerie silence. The only sound was the ship's engines as they slowed to land. The ship touched down softly, and the doors opened with a hiss. Lyle stepped out, his feet crunching on the dry ground. He looked around, his eyes wide with wonder and fear. In the distance, a massive silhouette loomed. It was the lair of Vorath, and Lyle could feel its presence even before he saw it. The dragon's lair was a massive structure built into the side of a mountain. The entrance was guarded by towering statues, each one of a creature Lyle had never seen before. They looked like dragons, but they were different, more ancient, more menacing. As Lyle walked closer, his breath caught in his throat. The statues seemed to watch him, their cold stone eyes following his every move. "Come closer, child," a deep rumbling voice said, shaking the ground beneath Lyle's feet. It was a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once, and it sent a chill down his spine. Lyle hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath and stepped forward. He knew he had no choice. Inside the lair, the air was thick with heat. The walls were made of dark stone, and strange symbols adorned every surface. The whole place seemed to pulse with an ancient energy, like it was alive in some way. In the center of the room, surrounded by a swirling vortex of flame and shadow, was Vorath himself. The dragon was enormous. His scales shimmered like molten metal, glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light. His eyes, two fiery orbs, locked onto Lyle's with an intensity that made the young boy's heart race. Ah, the sacrifice, Vorath's voice boomed. Another child sent to feed my hunger. How predictable. Lyle stood frozen, unable to speak. His eyes were locked on the dragons, and for a moment he felt like time had stopped. He couldn't move. He couldn't even breathe. The power of the dragon was overwhelming. But then, something happened. The dragon's gaze softened just for a moment, and Lyle felt a strange pull like the dragon was reaching out to him. It wasn't hunger. It was something else. Something far more complicated. You are not like the others, Vorath said quietly, his voice no longer filled with menace. You are different. Lyle didn't understand what the dragon meant, but before he could ask, Vorath continued. I will not take you as my meal today, child. No, you are destined for something much greater than that. Lyle's mind raced. What was happening? Why had the dragon spared him? And what did this all mean? The answers would come, but not yet. For now, Lyle had to face the reality of his situation. He had been sacrificed to the Draken car, but what came next would change everything. Lyle's heart pounded as he stood in the presence of Vorath, the massive dragon whose very name filled every corner of the galaxy with fear. The heat radiating from the dragon's scales was suffocating, and the flickering flames that danced around the lair seemed to grow brighter with every passing second. Yet despite the danger, Lyle felt something strange, something that he couldn't explain. It wasn't fear anymore. It was curiosity. The fear had been replaced by something deeper, something more complex. Vorath, the ancient god of the Draken car, stared down at Lyle with eyes that glowed like burning suns. His voice echoed in the lair, deep and powerful, but with a strange undertone that almost seemed concerned. You are different, the dragon rumbled again, his voice vibrating through Lyle's bones. I have watched your kind for millennia, but never have I encountered one like you. Lyle stood motionless, unable to speak. His mind raced, and 1,000 questions flooded his thoughts. What did the dragon mean? Why had he spared him? Every child who had come here before had never left. They had been devoured, their lives taken to appease the hunger of the ancient dragon. Yet Lyle was still standing. He had not been eaten. What do you mean? Lyle finally managed to whisper, his voice shaking. I'm just a kid. A sacrifice, like the others. Vorath's eyes seemed to narrow, his enormous head lowering slightly to meet Lyle at eye level. A low growl escaped his throat, but it wasn't threatening. It was thoughtful, almost like a rumble of contemplation. Do not mistake yourself for just a kid, the dragon spoke slowly, his voice softer now. You are far more than that. You are a child of destiny, bound by forces that even I cannot fully understand. Lyle's confusion deepened. What forces? I don't understand. Long ago, Vorath began, his voice taking on a distant tone as though he were recalling something from ages past. The Draken car made a pact with a race far older than the stars themselves. They sought power, unlimited power, and in their arrogance they bound a human child to me. Every century a new child would be chosen, and each one would be marked by the curse of the dragon. Lyle took a hesitant step back, his eyes widening with a mixture of fear and wonder. A curse? What do you mean? Vorath's massive wings shifted slightly, the air around them rippling with the movement. This curse, young one, is no ordinary curse. It binds the soul of the child to me, forging a connection that neither of us can sever. In return for their soul, I give them strength beyond their years. The curse makes them into something more, something like me. Lyle's head spun as he tried to comprehend what the dragon was saying. A curse? Strength like the dragon? He had been chosen to be bound to the dragon? How could this be? He was just a boy, a simple child. How could he possibly have a connection to something so powerful, so ancient? But why me? Lyle asked, his voice barely a whisper. I don't understand. I'm just a kid from a small colony. Why would I be chosen? Vorath's eyes softened, the flames within them flickering gently. You were not chosen by the Draken car, child. You were chosen by fate. The curse, the bond. It was meant to be. You see, the Draken car's power has been waning for centuries. They've forgotten what it means to truly hold power. But you, Lyle, you are the key to restoring that power and destroying it. Lyle's eyes widened in shock. Destroy it? Yes, Vorath answered. The Draken car are too far gone. Their hunger for power has consumed them. but they do not know that their reign will soon come to an end. You are the one who will bring that end. You will break their curse, shatter their hold on the galaxy. Lyle felt a chill run down his spine. He couldn't understand everything that the dragon was telling him, but one thing was clear. His life was no longer his own. He had been chosen for something far greater, something that he wasn't sure he was ready for. "I'm just a kid," Lyle said, shaking his head in disbelief. "I can't do this. I don't know anything about what you're talking about." Vorath's gaze softened even further. "You have the strength within you, child. I have seen it in you since the moment you arrived. You are no ordinary human. You are the child of both worlds, of the Drakencar and the humans. And together we will shape the future." Lyle looked at the dragon, his heart heavy with uncertainty. He had never asked for this. He had never wanted to be a part of something so grand, so dangerous. He had just wanted to live a simple life on Eros with his mother. But now everything had changed. His fate was tied to the dragons. He had no choice but to follow the path that had been laid out for him. "What do I have to do?" Lyle asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "How do I stop them?" Vorath's wings fluttered once, sending a gust of wind through the lair. "You must embrace the power within you, Lyle. You must learn to control the energy that flows through your veins. It is a power unlike anything your kind has ever known. With it you can challenge the Drakencar. You can stop their reign of terror. But the cost will be great. The power you wield will change you." Lyle swallowed hard. "I don't want to change. I just want to go home." Vorath's eyes glowed brighter. "You cannot go home, Lyle. The moment you were chosen, your destiny was sealed. But I will not leave you alone. I will teach you to control the power within you. Together we can bring the Drakencar to their knees." The words hung heavy in the air. Lyle felt the weight of them pressing down on him, and a sense of dread filled his chest. But there was also something else, a spark of something he couldn't quite explain. Hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, he could make a difference. Vorath stood silent for a moment, watching Lyle carefully. Then the dragon spoke again, his voice softer this time. "There is no going back, but there is a future ahead of you, one that is far greater than you can imagine. Embrace it, Lyle. Embrace your destiny." Lyle stood in the dragon's lair, the weight of the dragon's words pressing heavily on him. His mind raced as he thought of his mother, of the colony, and of the life he had left behind. Could he really do this? Could he really destroy the Drakencar and end their reign of terror? He didn't know. But one thing was certain. His life had changed forever. Lyle stood in the heart of Vorath's lair, the weight of his new reality pressing heavily on his chest. His mind swirled with confusion and fear. One moment he was just a child, living a simple life on the colony of Eros. And now, he was tied to an ancient dragon, cursed with power he didn't understand. The dragon's words echoed in his mind. "You are the key. You will bring their end." But how? How could a boy like him, a child who had never known anything but fear and survival, ever stand up to the might of the Drakencar? Vorath's fiery gaze never left him, as if the dragon was watching for any sign of hesitation. The lair, with its endless corridors of black stone, felt both a prison and a sanctuary. Lyle didn't know where he was supposed to begin. The power within him, the strange force Vorath had spoken of, was still a mystery. But one thing was clear: he couldn't escape it. "I don't know how to control it," Lyle whispered, staring down at his hands. His fingers trembled, as if they were still unsure of their new strength. Vorath's deep voice rumbled in response. "You will learn. But first you must understand what you have become. The bond between us is ancient, and with it comes responsibility. You are no longer just a boy, Lyle. You are something greater. You have the blood of the Drakencar flowing through you, the power of the stars themselves at your fingertips." Lyle's chest tightened. The blood of the Drakencar? That was impossible. He was human. He had always been human. But Vorath's words lingered in his mind, tugging at something deep inside him. "I don't feel like something greater," Lyle said quietly. "I still feel like me. I still feel small." Vorath moved, his massive wings shifting with a gust of wind. The dragon's eyes glowed brighter, and a strange sense of calm washed over Lyle. "That is because you have not yet awakened. The power within you is dormant, like a seed waiting to grow. But it will grow, Lyle. And when it does, you will be able to do things you never thought possible." Lyle looked up at the dragon, his expression torn between awe and fear. "What do you mean? What can I do?" Vorath's voice softened almost kindly. You will be able to control the very energy of the cosmos. You can bend time and space. You can shape matter, move mountains, and command the forces of the universe. But most importantly, you will be able to fight the Drakencar, to end their reign of terror. The words seemed too grand, too impossible to be true. Lyle was just a boy from a small colony. He had never fought anyone in his life. How could he possibly be the one to defeat the Drakencar, the creatures who had ruled the galaxy for centuries? I don't even know where to start, Lyle muttered, his voice shaking. Vorath's eyes glimmered with understanding. You will start with yourself. First, you must learn to trust the power within you. It is not something that can be forced. It must come from within, from your heart. Lyle felt a strange heat rising within him, a pulsing energy that seemed to respond to the dragon's words. It was as though something inside him was awakening, stirring from deep within. For the first time since he had arrived, he felt a flicker of hope. What do I need to do? Lyle asked, his voice firmer now. He was ready to learn, ready to understand the power that Vorath had spoken of. Vorath nodded, his great wings folding tightly against his massive body. Close your eyes, Lyle. Focus on the feeling inside you. The power. Let it grow. Let it fill you. Lyle hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to proceed. But then he took a deep breath and closed his eyes. The air around him seemed to hum with energy. At first there was nothing, just emptiness. But then slowly he began to feel it. A strange warmth like the heat of a fire spread through his chest. It was as if something deep inside him had been awakened, a hidden strength he had never known existed. The warmth grew, spreading through his limbs, until it filled his entire body. It was a power unlike anything he had ever felt. It was raw and untamed, like the force of a storm or the brightness of a supernova. Lyle gasped as he felt it swirl through him, growing stronger with each passing second. Focus, Vorath's voice said, calm and steady. Let it become one with you. Do not fight it. Lyle's heart raced, but he obeyed. He focused on the energy inside him, willing it to stay steady. Slowly, he began to feel control, a gentle push of power at his fingertips. He could feel it, this strange cosmic energy. It was like holding the universe itself in his hands. Good, Vorath said, a low rumble of approval in his voice. Now release it. Let it flow through you. Lyle held out his hand, and with a sudden burst, a surge of energy exploded from his fingertips. It crackled in the air, bright blue lightning that swirled around him. The ground beneath his feet shook, and the walls of the lair trembled. Lyle stumbled backward, his heart racing. The power had surged too quickly, too uncontrollably. I didn't mean to do that, Lyle gasped, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The energy was still swirling in the air, crackling with wild intensity. Vorath's deep laugh filled the lair. It is only the beginning, young one. You are learning. Power, like all things, requires practice. You must learn to control it, to focus it. Lyle nodded, still trembling from the rush of power. It was both exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. He could feel the raw potential within him, but he knew it would take time. Time he didn't have. The Drakencar were out there, still threatening the galaxy. He had to be ready. He had to master this power. Are you ready to continue? Vorath asked, his voice gentle but firm. Lyle took a deep breath, steadying himself. He had no choice. The galaxy was counting on him. The colony on Eros was counting on him. And deep inside, he knew that this power was not just a gift. It was his responsibility. The power within him was a weapon, and he had to learn how to wield it. Yes, Lyle said, his voice steady now. I'm ready, Vorath nodded approvingly. Then we shall begin. There is much to learn, but you will not do this alone. I will guide you, and together we will end the rule of the Drakencar. And with that, the first steps of Lyle's journey began. The power within him had awoken, and though the road ahead would be long and difficult, he was no longer just a child of sacrifice. He was something far more powerful, something that could change the fate of the entire galaxy. The days in Vorath's lair felt both endless and fleeting to Lyle. Time, it seemed, had no meaning here. He spent countless hours training, pushing himself to understand the power that surged through him, learning to control the energy that hummed in his veins. Vorath, ever patient and wise, guided him, teaching him how to channel the cosmic forces within him. With every lesson, Lyle could feel himself becoming stronger, more confident. But at the same time, a growing unease gnawed at him. He could feel the weight of the galaxy pressing down on his shoulders, He wasn't just learning for himself anymore. He was learning for everyone. Humanity's future depended on it. The Draken car were not waiting. While Lyle honed his skills in the dragon's lair, the galaxy outside continued to tremble under their iron grip. Their ships patrolled the stars, their rulers ever hungry for more power. The people of the colonies, spread out across the galaxy, had been living in fear for so long that they had forgotten what it meant to fight back. The Draken car had ensured that no one could stand against them, their strength unmatched, their control unchallenged. But Lyle knew that would change. He had seen the vision Vorath had shown him, the future where humanity rose up, united by the power of the dragon's curse. But even as his own abilities grew, he knew that there was still much to do. The rebellion, the uprising, could not start without the spark, the leadership that could inspire others to join the fight. One day, as the training continued, Vorath's voice echoed through the lair, deep and powerful, breaking Lyle's focus. "It is time," the dragon said, his tone heavy with purpose. "You are ready." Lyle turned, his heart racing. He was ready? But ready for what? "For what?" Lyle asked, his voice uncertain. "I've only just begun to learn how to control this power. I'm not ready to lead an army." Vorath's gaze softened, his fiery eyes gleaming with wisdom. "You have learned what you need to, Lyle. The power within you is strong, but it is not just your strength that will lead. It is your heart, your courage. You must show the galaxy that humanity is not afraid anymore. You are no longer a child to be sacrificed. You are the force that will break the Draken car's reign." Lyle swallowed hard. Could he really do this? Could he lead a rebellion against the most fearsome creatures in the galaxy? He was just a boy from a small colony. He had no military experience. He had no army. And yet here he was, carrying the hopes of millions of people on his shoulders. Vorath seemed to sense his hesitation. "I will not ask you to do this alone. You will have allies, Lyle. Those who have been waiting for a leader like you. You will find them, and together you will rise." Lyle nodded, though doubt still lingered in his mind. "Where do I start?" "You begin by reaching out to the colonies," Vorath instructed. "Use the power within you. The energy you command is not just for destruction. It can connect you to others. You can send a message across the stars. It is time to rally the people." Lyle closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He had never tried to use his power for something like this before, but he trusted Vorath. If the dragon believed he was ready, then perhaps he was. He reached out with his mind, focusing on the vast expanse of space that stretched before him. He felt the energy flowing through him, a vast ocean of light and power. He focused on the colonies, the people who lived in fear, waiting for someone to give them hope. Slowly he began to connect with them, sending a wave of energy through the galaxy. It was a delicate process, like reaching out to touch a distant star. Lyle's voice, strong and clear, echoed through the cosmos, carried by the energy he channeled. "People of the colonies," he said, his voice calm but filled with purpose. "I am Lyle, the child you once offered to the Draken car. I have not been taken. I have been chosen to lead. Together we can rise. Together we can end the reign of the Draken car. The time has come for humanity to fight back. You are not alone. We will unite. And we will stand against the tyranny that has controlled us for too long." As his message spread, Lyle felt a surge of power unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was like the universe itself had heard him. He could feel the stirrings of hope across the colonies. He could feel the hearts of the people waking up, the first spark of rebellion igniting in the dark expanse of space. And then, something unexpected happened. The Draken car sensed the disturbance. Lyle could feel their presence, their anger. They had been watching. They knew what was happening. The ground beneath his feet trembled, and a deep, menacing voice filled the lair. "Foolish human," the voice rumbled. "You dare challenge us? You who are nothing but a child, born of weakness and fear. You cannot stop us." Lyle's heart raced as the voice of the Draken car echoed in his mind, but he did not flinch. The dragon had warned him this would come. The Draken car would not simply surrender. They would fight back with everything they had. "I will not be intimidated," Lyle said, his voice steady. "The galaxy will rise against you. This is just the beginning." Vorath's voice rumbled behind him, full of quiet approval. "Well said, young one. The battle has begun." As the message spread, Lyle felt the response from the colonies. A surge of energy, of hope flowed back to him. The resistance had begun. Across the stars, in hidden bases and dark corners of the galaxy, humans and aliens alike began to prepare. The spark of rebellion had been lit, and it was spreading. The Drakencar would not be able to contain it. Lyle knew there was no turning back now. The rebellion had begun, and it would only grow stronger. The galaxy had heard his call. Now it was time to lead them into the fight. But Lyle also knew that the path ahead would be filled with dangers. The Drakencar would strike back hard, and many would suffer. But in his heart, Lyle felt the power that had awakened within him. He was no longer just a child of sacrifice. He was a leader. He was the hope of the galaxy, and with that hope he would fight. The stars in the sky above Lyle burned with a new brightness, a flicker of hope that had not been seen in centuries. The message he had sent across the galaxy had done more than just stir the hearts of the oppressed. It had ignited the first real rebellion against the Drakencar. For the first time in years, people were starting to believe they could fight back. The galaxy had heard him, and now the real battle was about to begin. Lyle stood on the bridge of a ship that had once been used to transport slaves, now repurposed as a command vessel for the resistance. Around him, humans and aliens alike moved with purpose, preparing for the fight ahead. The air was thick with anticipation, but there was also an underlying tension. Everyone knew the stakes. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about freedom. This was about taking down a tyrannical force that had ruled for far too long. Vorath stood behind him, the dragon's massive form casting a long shadow over the room. His fiery eyes never left Lyle, always watching, always waiting. The dragon had taught Lyle much, but the true test had yet to come. Lyle's hand rested lightly on the control panel, his fingers grazing the buttons that would lead them into the heart of enemy territory. He had spent days planning with his commanders, strategizing their next move. It wasn't just about brute strength. This battle required careful planning. The Drakencar were not easily defeated. They were ancient, powerful, and had resources Lyle's side could only dream of. But they had something the Drakencar did not: hope. "We're ready," Lyle said, his voice steady despite the uncertainty that churned in his gut. He was no longer the scared boy who had been offered as a sacrifice. He had grown in ways he never imagined possible. The dragon's power was within him, coursing through his veins, and it was his weapon. But he also knew that no amount of power could guarantee victory. The rebellion needed more than just strength. It needed unity, strategy, and above all, heart. Vorath's voice rumbled from behind him. "You are ready, Lyle, but remember, the Drakencar will not go down easily. They will fight with everything they have. This is your moment, and it is not without sacrifice." Lyle nodded, understanding the gravity of the dragon's words. The path ahead would be dangerous, and many would fall in the battle to come. But he couldn't back down. Too much was at stake. "I know," Lyle said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I won't let them win." The resistance fleet was ready. Hundreds of ships, from tiny fighters to enormous battleships, now stood poised for battle, a testament to the strength that had been awakened in the people of the colonies. As the ships launched into space, Lyle felt the weight of his decision settle in. There was no going back now. The Drakencar would either break or they would crush them all. The battle began quickly. The resistance moved fast, striking the outer edges of the Drakencar's strongholds, sabotaging their ships and communication networks. The Drakencar, caught off guard by the sudden rebellion, scrambled to respond, but they were too slow. Lyle's forces, moving with precision, hit hard and fast, gaining ground inch by inch. The Drakencar, for the first time, were losing. Lyle stood at the helm of the command ship, watching as the battlefield unfolded before him. His heart raced with every victory, but there was also a lingering fear. What if this was all for nothing? What if they couldn't finish what they had started? His thoughts were interrupted when a sudden jolt rocked the ship. "Enemy ship incoming," one of his commanders shouted. "It's a Drakencar battleship. They've sent their best fleet." Lyle's breath caught in his throat. This was it, the final confrontation. The Drakencar would now know who they were truly up against. "Hold steady," Lyle commanded, trying to keep his voice calm despite the tension in his chest. "Prepare the fleet." We push forward. The resistance fleet surged forward, locking into battle with the Drakencar's ships. Laser blasts lit up the sky as both sides clashed in the dark expanse of space. The Drakencar were formidable, their ships large and heavily armored, but Lyle had learned from Vorath how to tap into the very energy of the cosmos. With a flick of his hand, Lyle sent out a wave of power, cracking the shields of a nearby Drakencar ship. The energy that surged from him was overwhelming, but it felt right. Like he was one with the universe, the force of nature that could not be stopped. But the Drakencar were not finished yet. Their flagship, a massive vessel nearly the size of a moon, appeared on the horizon. It was surrounded by a dozen smaller ships, each bristling with weapons. Lyle's heart pounded in his chest. This was their final test. The Drakencar were pulling out all the stops. "We need to take down their flagship," Lyle said, his voice tight with urgency. "It's the heart of their fleet," Vorath's voice echoed in his mind. "You must reach it, Lyle. The Drakencar Emperor is aboard. His death will weaken their resolve." "You must end this," Lyle nodded. He couldn't hesitate. This was his moment to finish what he had started. As the Resistance fleet clashed with the Drakencar forces, Lyle focused all of his energy, directing it toward the enemy flagship. He could feel the immense power within him, drawing from the stars themselves, and with a single thought, he unleashed it. A bolt of energy shot from his hands, colliding with the flagship's shields, causing them to flicker and crack. The enemy ship shuddered under the force, and then, with a deafening explosion, the shields broke apart. "We've breached their defenses," a voice shouted from behind him. Lyle didn't wait. He ordered his ship forward, charging toward the heart of the Drakencar flagship. The final battle had begun. As Lyle's ship docked, the Resistance poured into the enemy vessel. The Drakencar Emperor, an enormous creature cloaked in shadow, awaited them in the heart of the ship. His eyes burned with hatred as he stared at Lyle. "You think you can destroy us, Humyn?" The Emperor growled, his voice like thunder. "You are nothing." Lyle stepped forward, his heart steady, his power crackling through his fingertips. "No, I'm everything. The galaxy's hope. The end of your reign." With that, Lyle unleashed the full force of his power. A wave of cosmic energy exploded from him, knocking the Drakencar Emperor back, weakening him. The Emperor struggled to fight back, but the power of the dragon's curse was too much. In a final burst of energy, Lyle struck, ending the Drakencar Emperor's life and securing the victory for the rebellion. The galaxy was free. As Lyle stood in the wreckage of the Drakencar flagship, he felt the weight of what he had accomplished. The war was over, and the people of the galaxy were no longer slaves to fear. But it had come at a cost. Many lives had been lost in the battle, and the galaxy would take time to rebuild. Vorath's voice filled his mind. "You have done it, Lyle. You have freed the galaxy." Lyle nodded, but he knew that the true journey had only just begun. The galaxy was no longer under the shadow of the Drakencar, but now it was time for humanity to shape its future. He looked out at the stars, knowing that a new dawn had come, one that would be defined by freedom, unity, and the strength of those who dared to fight for it.